Hey, you're back listening to the Get Out of Debt Guy podcast. I'm the old Get Out of Debt Guy, Steve Rode. And with me, as always, is the new Get Out of Debt Guy, Damon Day. Guess what I'm going to ask you, Damon? Say hello.
Hello.
You're always so enthusiastic.
But you're not asking me, you're telling me.
Okay. Damon, would you like to say hello?
Sure. Hello.
You should have just left it at sure. Today we're talking about sex. Well, kind of. We're talking about sexually transmitted debt and financial infidelity. It's kind of a two-part thing. And let me break down what these terms mean if you have not heard them before. Well, financial infidelity is when one spouse hides financial activities, like spending or debt or bank accounts or accounts from their partner. And, it generally it comes out later in a big surprise reveal, and it's never fun. The other one, sexually transmitted debt. This is when, one partner unknowingly takes on debt of the other partner as a result of, joint accounts or cards or co-signing loans or entering a marriage without knowing, all of the debt the other partner has. It's actually more common than you would think. I mean, I've talked to people over the years that were getting married. This is the thing. People will swap bodily fluid, but they just won't tell each other about their debt. What's more shameful?
Well, it depends on who you are, I guess.
Yeah. Well, apparently for at least the people that I have dealt with over the years, talking about the debt is more shameful. I remember this one guy who told me, he goes, Steve, I'm in trouble. I've been dating this girl for 7 years and she's given me an ultimatum. And she said, we either get married or I'm leaving. And he said, the reason I won't ask her to marry me is because of my credit report. So, the polite me was like, look, we can work through this, or, things that we can do. And inside my head, I'm going like, dude, come on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at that point, you just have to be honest with her and say, hey, look, and I think if I remember the story right, it wasn't even really that much debt, or it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And it's something that you guys can work through together. No point hiding it. And the thing is, I always find that it's usually something where the other person says, well, I'm going to get it. I'll be able to fix it. I'll fix it.
Yeah.
It'll get fixed first. So I don't have to, come forward and disclose, what happened. And the problem is, most of the time in the process of trying to fix it, it just tends to get worse and worse and worse, or bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. In this particular case, the girlfriend ended up leaving him.
Because he hid it from her, or?
Yeah, he would not, he couldn't tell her about his credit report. And so she gave him the ultimatum and he wouldn't do anything about it. And she left.
And so the thing he was worried about, her leaving him because of his credit report, happened anyway, because he wouldn't tell her about what was going on and giving her a chance to say, okay, well, let's work through it together.
You had a client once that had kind of a reverse situation. And I've had many of these too. This situation was where the purse story.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You want to tell us that one?
Well, yeah, that one was a bit reverse, because they were both, there was no hiding or anything going on,
right.
But it was a client that hired me, and we were going through the finances, and it was clear that, his lifestyle far exceeded his income.
Mm-hmm.
And, and there's a lot that goes into this, but, one of the components was that he wanted to keep his wife in the lifestyle that she was accustomed to being in, and his income was going, nope.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how he ended up in that situation. That was a big driver of it, was just the overspending. So, we came down to where he was in a situation where we were going to negotiate the cars. He just could not afford them anymore. So we were going to negotiate with the creditors, and he was not in a situation where bankruptcy made sense. And when he sent me over a couple of his statements to, review his cards and who he owed what to, and all that stuff, I noticed there was recently, like within the last 30 days, some very large charges on a Macy's. I think it was Macy's, could have been a Nordstrom's. I can't remember. This is 8-10 years ago. Credit card. And he wanted me to, negotiate that card for him. And I said, well, okay, what's this charge? It's like, I can't go to the creditor and claim hardship and, get you a deal when you've got this. What is that charge for? It was like $10,000.
Yeah. And it was recent.
Yeah. It was made after, because he'd been a client for a few months by this point where we were trying to figure everything out and looking at different options. And so this happened while he was a client of mine. And he goes, oh, that was a purse my wife bought. And I was kind of taken aback a little bit. I was just like, come again?
Yeah.
Like, what? like this is like a $10,000 purchase, like what hardships are we going to be claiming? And then it's like, you can't just like then go try to buy a $10,000 purse and then turn around and be like, yeah, I can't afford this payment anymore. It's like, wait. So I said, she bought a purse? And he goes, well, it was a bag too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Like, well, in that case.
I was like, all right, we need to take it. And at this point, I had not met with his wife. She refused to, participate, which I always encourage my clients, have your spouses participate, in the calls. We all need to be on the same page. And so I'd never spoken with her or anything like that. And I told him, I said, hey, look, we got to do one of two things here. Either, you got to return this bag and purse or whatever it was, or you got to continue to make payments on this card. I'm not doing anything with that card. There's no way. And he was like kind of shocked by that. He's like, oh, really? You can't negotiate it? I'm like, it's not that I can't, it's I won't.
Right.
I mean, no, I'm not doing that. We're not getting free Gucci purses or whatever the heck it was. So the end result of all of that was the very next phone. I said, look, I'll be happy to talk to your wife about it. If you want me to, but you're going to need to have a conversation with her. We got to make some hard choices here.
Yeah.
And the end result was the next call we did. He said, well, hey, look, I really appreciate what you've done, but we've decided we're going to go a different direction. Okay. Best of luck. I never heard from him again, so I don't know how it turned out, but hey, sorry.
Well, I have my favorite female story, my favorite male story. So you pick. Which one do you want to hear first?
Let's go female.
Okay. My favorite female sexually transmitted debt story was a couple who was happy in love. They were just like the best partnership you'd ever seen. And the wife had told her husband, we need to get things better organized so we can move forward financially. And I think what we should do is just consolidate all of our debt on your credit cards, and then, we'll get all the perks and bonuses and we'll pay it off.
Where this is going.
Yeah. So the day
I have not heard the story before.
The day after they consolidated all their debt, she left.
I knew that was coming. Didn't even see it coming. Robbed by a sweet old lady.
Okay. Oh, I have a second sexually transmitted debt story that involves a woman. So I was working with a couple and we're going over the bills. And I said, I know you each have your own cell phone account, but I don't remember her name, but I'll call her Betty. Betty, why do you have two? Ooh. And she was like hemming and hawing and dodging and everything else. And finally, she just got fed up and she said, 'cause it's my lesbian lover's phone.
Great.
All right. And my favorite.
So did you balance that budget, Steve?
Honest to God, I think that was the last conversation I ever had with him.
Funny how that works.
Yeah.
It's all your fault. You blew up the relationship.
Yeah, I don't think your problem is money.
Honey.
And my favorite guy story is guy goes to the car dealership. He's told his girlfriend, not even married, his girlfriend, how much he wants a new Mustang. I love the car, everything else. I'm going to work overtime. Baby, I love you. And they go in and his credit is crap. So the only way they will give him the loan for the car is if she co-signs and pledges her paid off car as collateral. She said he
This must have
drove
been a
off.
long time ago.
Yeah, he drove off the lot, and that was the last she saw of him.
Perfect.
Yeah. So people do strange things when it comes to money. Now,
Who
how
says there's no
common?
good men left out there? That
Yeah,
guy's out there.
I'm sure he traded in on the next disaster.
He's a lot older now, but he's out there.
So how prevalent is this thing about financial infidelity and sexually transmitted debt? Well, 43% of adults in a relationship admit to committing financial infidelity, not telling their partner. 4 in 10 adults regularly keep financial secrets from their partner, like hiding debt. Now, my God, Damon, over the years, you've told me so many stories about, I think it's primarily women, actually, who
No,
my husband
no.
doesn't know or my wife doesn't know, right? I can't.
I'd say it happens with men a lot too, especially because of the shame that's involved. And I
Mhm.
got it, and a lot of it all stems from nobody ever seems to nobody really ever does it on purpose. Like it's not like that wasn't their intent to start out
Right.
most of the time. But it was just something that I had to do this or I had to do this or I wanted to save them the hardship of the burden of this, so I'm trying to fix it right myself, and
Mhm.
it just kind of snowballs and snowballs because as debt does, the larger it gets, the bigger cash burden it has, and it gets to a point where it's very difficult to keep concealed.
Mhm.
And so, but yeah, it's actually very. I saw a meme actually last night on Facebook, and it was funny. It was a guy like at his computer, like pulling out his hair, and the whole caption was like, me, frustrated, working overtime trying to pay all the bills, and then my wife sneaking Amazon boxes into the house, and then it has a lady like holding a big Amazon box and like in a kind of a funny walkway, like sneaking in behind him. It was just, you have to see it obviously, but it was actually pretty funny. I'm sure that goes on a lot where, the husband comes home from work or the wife comes home and, the non-working spouse or the working spouse comes home and pulls in and sees boxes on the front door.
Oh yeah.
Goes
Oh
into a
yeah.
rage, right? Like, more boxes.
Well, couples
Bezos
who
is one of the richest men in the damn world, thanks to me.
yeah, couples who fight about money are 30% more likely to divorce, and 16% of those who committed financial infidelity said it led not only to increased debt, but also could lead to like debt settlement or bankruptcy or something. They had to
Yeah.
do something about it.
Well, here's my advice, and this is obviously self-serving. If there's an issue, you have something going on, whether it's $5,000 on a credit card, 20. I've had clients where it's like, yeah, I've got this $100,000, and it always comes like, I don't want to burden my spouse with this. I want to try to fix it. It's I did it. It's my and I've had some where gambling addiction and stuff like that, or just shopping, things going on. And even somewhere it's just like I've been trying to keep everything afloat and I'm
Yeah.
trying to shield my spouse from the stress of that, So so oftentimes these things were done, I think, with good intentions. It just got out of control. And when I have clients that are in situations like I feel like I need to come clean, but this is going to crush them when they find this out, and I don't know what that's going to mean. Obviously, every situation is different, but my biggest recommendation is, well, you need to tell them, number one, because they're going to find out.
Right.
They're going to find out. But you want to put a plan in place
Yeah.
to fix it first.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you get a plan, so when you present it with them,
Yeah.
or
You
present it to them,
right. You
you're
got a
not
plan.
saying, here's this $50,000 problem. Now what? Now you're saying, you want to be able to say, okay, look, here's what happened. Here's why it happened. Here's the steps I've taken to fix this. Right. And this is what I'm going to be doing. Whether that's, negotiating the debt, whether that's a bankruptcy, whether that's hey, you're getting a second job. You found our Penny Stupid channel and you really like the idea of door dashing and Instacarting and that kind of stuff to pay it off. Whatever it is, when you do kind of drop that bomb on them, drop it on them with, but here's the plan to fix it. Because even things like bankruptcy, in many cases, there's ways to do things that won't affect your significant other,
Right.
from a credit standpoint and things like that. So you can kind of fall on the sword, so to speak, as you're showing them what's going on. But here's the plan. Like, we can have, one spouse file bankruptcy in many cases, and the other one doesn't have to, where you can, like, hey, this debt was all in my name, and I'm going to take the hit. I'm going to do the bankruptcy, but that's not going to affect my spouse's income. It's not going to affect my spouse's credit or anything like that. Or even with settlement, there's often ways to solve the problem by and minimizing the effect on the spouse that was not aware of the issue.
Well, I always gave people, I agree completely with what you just said. I always gave people the advice, we need to have a full financial disclosure, and it's going to get frosty afterwards. Just prepare yourself that this person, your spouse, is going to get caught off guard and things are going to chill. So don't be alarmed when they're pissed. But it was always a multi-stage approach. After we come clean, right, we need to have open communications with our spouse. We need to create new financial rules like mutual accountability, looking at the accounts together, having an open book. Their relationship may need some counseling or therapy, depending on what the underlying issues were. And more importantly, on both sides, it will, if the other spouse is like, done, I'm not doing anything, well, then it might be over. But if the other spouse says, more people have appreciated coming forward with a plan and being surprised about it and then having worked through it. And I have found that in those situations, patience and forgiveness takes a little bit of time, but it does happen, and it does take a little bit more time for a gradual restoration of trust. Now, both parties are not necessarily, one party is not necessarily more to blame than the other in these situations, because I think you and I can both think of lots of examples of people where the husband or the wife was just totally checked out of their finances.
Yeah.
Right. I don't do anything with it. That's not a person's job. I'm, totally out of it. And then when there's a surprise, it's not necessarily the other person's fault because, you chose not to actively pay attention.
Yeah, especially when things are tight and the spouse that was in charge of the finances was just juggling things, trying to keep everything afloat.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that involves doing some things that, maybe don't work out the way they'd hoped, right? I mean, everybody's an optimist when it comes, okay, well, I'm going to get this really bad loan, but then I'll be able to consolidate this, and this. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to get this raise at work, or this is going to happen. And I'm going to be able to, dig my way out of this, and it's going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And more often than not, it just makes it worse.
So my overall advice, and I want to hear your summary of this, is that if you run into one of these situations and you're surprised and you find out about the debt, like talking to somebody like Damon Day, DAMONDAY.com, and working through, you don't have to tell your spouse first. Talk to Damon, work through a plan. He can guide you on, here's how I think that you should present it, and here's what we're going to accomplish, and I'm here for you, and I'm going to be holding your hand. And that is a much better way. And overall, I have seen much better results by doing it that way. Bracing yourself, it might be a little chilly. We're going to work our way through this, blah, blah, blah. Than just springing the surprise or driving away with the car or, leaving the next day. Those things never repair themselves.
Yeah. Well, especially if they drive away and never come back.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to repair that.
Yeah. Or transfer the debt and leave.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've actually had, both situations where more often it's the spouse or the partner that has the debt issue, and they're trying to, they stumbled across our website or something like that, or our podcast, and they're trying to figure out what to do because instinctively they're like, I'm afraid to tell my spouse. And instinctively they know, like, if I am going to maybe have to tell him or her, I want to have a plan, Or sometimes you're thinking, well, maybe I can, get this figured out without having to tell them. But I can tell you from lots of experience that no matter what we end up doing, there's going to be ways that it'll be a random phone call from a creditor or something that they happen to pick up or whatever it is. And then that's not the way you want them to find out, or your spouse is yelling at somebody on the other phone because they're like, you got the wrong number. I don't know why you call me. I don't know this money. And that's not the way you want them to find out. But I also have clients over the years that were the affected spouse that, that found out about it. And they're okay, let's figure this out. What are we going to do? And start getting online, doing the research and all this kind of stuff. And then they end up calling me. And, we're in a lot of situations where like, hey, we don't know what we're going to do. We don't know if this is going to end in divorce or not, but, it is what it is. And, so you never know how somebody's going to react. But my advice is if you have a situation, regardless of the reasons that you're in the situation, we just got to look at the situation and then decide how we're going to move forward. But my advice is figure out a strategy and a plan first, and then you are going to have to come clean because it will come out. Like I said, it will come out, and you just got to start thinking like a politician. It's best that you control that narrative and have a strategy
have
for
a plan.
it. Yeah, rather than the American people just finding out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have, while you were talking, I had 3 stories pop into my head. One was, I don't know if you've seen this before, but parents who end up taking out credit cards in their kid's name.
Oh, yeah. I was going to kind of bring that up with the even dicier one, which is the spouse has the debt problem, but it's in the other spouse's name. Then it gets dicey. That's a dicey one.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this where the kids, come of age and they're finally able to.
Daisy.
Yeah. Oops, my bad. They're finally able to apply for their own credit, and they look at their credit report and they've got all these cards. The parents took them out. My favorite parent card story was a guy who was the kid was here studying, going to college. He was a foreign student, and his father came to visit him here in the United States and didn't tell his son, applied for, it was an American Express in the kid's name, and then ran it up and left. Just left the country. But here is what I think is probably the diciest situation I ever saw. Was a woman came to me with problem debt. It turned out that her father-in-law had opened a loan using her name, and he would not pay back the loan, and she would not report him to the police.
So she just kept paying on it?
She kept paying on it. She said that she didn't want to include her husband, the guy's son, because she didn't want to blow up the family relationship. And so
too late.
I know. They're all tragic.
Yeah.
That one actually had a really weird ending. So what ended up happening is
Dateline tomorrow.
Yeah. What ended up happening was she defaulted on the debt. They went and they sued her.
Yeah.
But they never could find the loan documents. Right? So they couldn't validate the debt.
Oh, did she get an attorney and challenge it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, she actually had a valid defense.
Right. Yeah.
I never borrowed the money. And in those cases, the consumer's like, well, yeah, okay, I borrowed the money. Yeah, I did. But
originally the lender was saying, you need to file a police report. This needs to be, we need to pursue him with criminal charges for identity theft and everything else. She just lucked out that it turned out that it all fell apart because they lost the loan documents and could never validate the debt was actually real.
Yeah, because in a sense, she handicapped the lender. She really left the lender no choice but to sue her because she wouldn't take the steps. They can't go after this guy.
Right.
Because she's saying so-and-so took out the loan, it wasn't me. Well, without a police report, they can't. That's just, nothing they can do about it. You're the one liable until you can defend yourself. So, I'm glad it worked out for her. And then that didn't blow up the family relationship when the son's wife was sued.
She didn't tell her husband.
He didn't even know she got sued?
Nope.
Wow.
And of course, the father-in-law wasn't coming forward. So It was a terrible situation with a freaky ending.
Well, there you go. Sometimes, what do you say? Fallen shit come out smelling like a rose.
That's right. That was her. All right. Well, Damon, unless you have anything else to add, I think we've covered this today.
No, it's just I would like to reiterate, because it's so important that, when you're in a situation like that, you can't imagine how good it feels to finally get a plan together and be able to come clean, and whatever the consequences are going to be the consequences. But, trying to keep it a secret and trying to fix it on your own by keeping it a secret, 99% of the time does not work. They will find out, and they will find out in a bad way, which like Steve's first story, will probably end up resulting in the thing that you're most afraid of by trying to keep it hidden. Like, the guy with his credit report, didn't want to marry his girlfriend because he was afraid she'd leave him because of his credit report. And instead she left him because he
wouldn't tell her.
He never committed because he was afraid she'd leave him because of his credit report.
I wish I knew all those years ago, but you do you, boo.
Yeah. Yeah. So come up with a plan. And like I said, if you need to fall, there are options out there where, if you're in a situation where you ran up that debt, there's things in many cases that we can do that would protect your spouse. But there's also situations that your spouse is going to be implicated in it. And the sooner we get ahead of it, the better. Right. I mean, especially if you're in a community property state, there could be some implications there, depending on what your income is. You might not even be in a position where you could file a bankruptcy yourself, just because together you and your spouse make too much money to file a Chapter 7. So, but we need to figure all that stuff out first. So, okay, these options are plausible. These options are not. Here's some strategies that we can work through, figure that out, and then have that conversation. It's going to be unpleasant, but it will be more pleasant than them finding out by a creditor, calling one day. Because if you have creditors calling your phone, it's just a matter of time. If you're ignoring them, where they're going to find other numbers related to you. It's real easy to do these days. And those people are going to be getting phone calls, and one of them will be your spouse.
All right, Damon, there's no sense wasting a perfectly good mistake. Let's learn from it and move forward. You need help? Contact Damon, DAMONDAY.com. Until next time, Damon, see ya.
Peace.